The Torah portion of Shemini, which means 8, the 8th day of inauguration, is really, in a sense, the climax of the entire Torah, because the whole history of the world, as we're reading all the Torah portions up to this point, was leading to this moment where God's house was built, it's completed, it's inaugurated, and finally the divine presence enters. And of course that's a symbol for our lives, that how do you bring God into your life? We try so hard to improve our characters, to give charity, to be nice to people, to heal our dysfunctional elements of our personality. But when you do all that building and working and building and working, you finally want some peace, some spirit to enter your life, some feeling of elevation that you've actually got there. And that's what Shemini is all about. And fascinatingly, there are two characters in this story. There's Moses and there's Aaron. Moses is, of course, the key player here. He receives the Torah, he speaks to God, he's inaugurating the priests. But when the final crunch actually comes, it's Aaron who brings the divine presence in the temple. So what can this teach you about life? How does your Aaron succeed in bringing in a peace where your Moses didn't? What did Moses do wrong, so to speak, which Aaron did right? So the Zohar depicts Moses as a kind of masculine approach. And again, these are generalizations, they're stereotype, but the stereotype of the man is aggressive dominance, whereas the stereotype of the female is more of a nurturing, warmer personality, which is, it's barely a stereotype, by the way. Only 60% of females are feeling types, according to Jungian psychology, 40% of men. So it's a slight predominance, but good enough for a stereotype. Moses represented this male energy. You want to get something done, you push it on the other person. Dominance, aggression. The way I'm going to control this world is by being controlling, and therefore just pushing my agenda through. Aaron represents, of course, he was the famous one who made peace between man and wife. How do you make peace? You don't make peace by being controlling. It just doesn't work. The way to make peace is by bringing out that inner harmony that exists between human beings. We all want to get on. We all want to be nice to each other deep down. The problem is that, I owe you a bit of money and you trod on my toe, and these little problems get in the way. And so the job of a peacemaker is to bring out that feminine energy of nurturing the inner good that's inside, just like a woman nurtures her child from early years, showers that child with love and makes the child feel accepted and loved. So the child just wants to be good. That's the feminine approach. The powerful message here is that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, only rested in the tabernacle through Aaron's approach, through the feminine stereotype of intuitive warmth, nurturing and love, rather than dominance. So the key to all your spiritual work is not trying to control the environment around you, not trying to control the people around you, but coming to the realization that everything is b'hashgacha pratit, everything is by divine providence, to embrace the spirit, the message in every encounter, and to harmonize all the conflicting components of your life with the Aaron type, feminine type approach. Chapter 10, verse 6, we have this tragedy. As I said before, this was the climax of history. God's house is finally built, and the Shekhinah, the divine presence, finally resting in it. And of course, life wouldn't be the same if it just didn't work like this. There is tragedy that follows. Aaron's two sons, Nadav and Avihu, go into the tabernacle. They make what's called an unauthorized fire, and fire comes down through their nostrils, and they are totally burned in the moment of glory. It's a tremendous anticlimax. Now, what's actually happening here? So Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Rizal, 16th century Kabbalist, speaks about this fascinating idea called spiritual pollutant, Zohama, in its Hebrew form. The Zohama is it's a kind of odd concept. We always know that there's chemical pollutants and there's nuclear reactors can explode and bring, radioactive pollutants. There's all sorts of pollutants. But we never really imagine that there's spiritual pollutant. How does the world get polluted spiritually? And what actually is that? So the Zohar speaks about it. It's called Zohama. And just like in the physical realm, we have all this polluting stuff. So sin, negativity, dysfunction, it all brings about Zohama. And the original source of it was the tree of knowledge. The sin of the tree of knowledge. When Adam and Eve sinned, they brought the Zohama to the world. And it took centuries to finally eliminate it. Through the path of Abraham, through the Jewish people, through Moses, through the giving of the Torah. Finally, when the Torah was given at Sinai, the Zohama was eliminated. And not for long. Well, as soon as they worshipped the golden calf, it came back. And this actually, says Rabbi Isaac Luria, is connected to the death of Nadav and Avihu. Really, they didn't have to have this horrible experience of being burned through their noses. That's horrific. Really, what was supposed to happen was, just a normal kind of death. Why did they have to have this particularly gruesome, horrific form of death? So, the reason was because this Zohama, this pollutant, had been brought back into the world. And therefore burning, because the world had become polluted, the heavens reacted, but with a particularly strong counterforce, which was burning. And Nadav and Avihu, who were reincarnations of Cain, they actually had a part of Cain's soul and Adam's soul, so therefore they were particularly susceptible and related to the Zohama because they'd been responsible originally in a prior incarnation of introducing it into the world. So that's why they were burnt. And why did the people weep? We read in the Torah that the people became, obviously they were mourning the passing, but the fact that the Torah stresses the weeping, because it was their fault! They'd worshipped the golden calf! They'd brought the Zohama back, and therefore, spiritually speaking, they were responsible for this burning, for this tragedy of burning, says Rabbi Isaac Luria. Everything connects together, you see. It's all the same souls, it's all the same story, repeating itself again and again and again. It's the same in our lives. These stories are repeating themselves until we break that cycle of dysfunction through spiritual insight, through Kabbalistic insight, and the will to do our spiritual work. Chapter 11, we read about the laws of kashrut, of kosher food, which animals are kosher, which ones are not, and this is always very perplexing. What is the reason why Jews keep kosher? It's obviously not some sort of health thing. Kosher food's not healthier than unkosher food. So what is the reason? So some people, the philosophers, for example, write it's an exercise in restraint, that every time we, besides having portion control and eating healthy food, there's the importance of just restraining yourself to eat a divinely chosen diet. But Kabbalists go deeper than that. The Kabbalists understand that when we carry out Jewish practices, this is not just symbolic, it's not just a ritual. Something's actually happening. So if you eat food that's kosher, it's affecting you in a certain way. And if you eat food that's non-kosher, it's affecting you in a different way. What's the difference? So Rabbi Menachem Rekanati, Italian Kabbalist, who you've heard about many times, says that all kosher food comes from the side of chesed, the side of kindness. And all non-kosher food comes from the side of gvura, of severity. Our problem is that we need to embrace chesed. How often has someone done something to you and you've judged them unfairly? How often do you have unkind thoughts about yourself? This is all bad gevura. This is all the bad rap that we get from embracing too much gevura. And actually, says the Kabbalah, by making food choices in the area of chesed, it gradually, you are what you eat, it gradually influences our body to the extent that it becomes easier and easier to make life choices in the area of chesed. The more chesed you eat, the more you become it, and therefore every decision that you make, shall I judge favorably or not? Shall I be harsh unto myself or not? All these decisions become easier and easier when we eat kosher food. Spiritual message for the week. Now, Nadav and Avihu are usually demonized. They're normally made out to be, terrible people who they brought this unauthorized fire and they got burned. Well, that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it. Why did the Torah record any mention of them? Just to disparage them? No, because it wants to inspire us. Even though Nadav and Avihu went a little bit too far, they pushed the boundary just that bit too much that it was fatal, but they were in the right direction. I'd rather be a disciple of Nadav and Avihu than not have spiritual arousement, than not have mystical passion. Nadav and Avihu did something extraordinarily right. They yearned for transcendence. They yearned to be in touch with their Creator. They were intoxicated with the divine. And that's something we should emulate. Of course, we should go to the edge of the cliff. We shouldn't fall off it like they did. But just to be stagnant, to walk into a synagogue and open a prayer book, mumble a few words, talk about the week's news and leave, that's not what it's all about. It's about mystical passion. Take note of an Avihu as our inspiration. It's very unlikely you're going to go as far as they did, but they were going in the right direction, and that's what we should try to emulate. Think about it, and please join us again next week for Torah in 10.